Hey, it's me, Nalthazar, and welcome to another Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the pre-release notes for the 5.2 patch that will be introducing Innistrad Midnight Hunt to Puzzle Quest. So, let's get into it. I wanted to start this video off by addressing really quickly why I haven't made a video in some time. I don't really want to get super into it right now, and I may make another video just to sort of go over that. But there's been some general personal stuff that has happened in my life over the past few weeks that has made it next to, if not entirely impossible, for me to be able to record and upload content. So I have a lot of stuff that I still want to be able to make for you guys. It just hasn't quite been possible the last few weeks. So hopefully we're turning a corner and I'll be able to make more videos like this for you. Now, this particular video is going to be going over the mechanics, the planeswalkers, the new event, the bug fixes, etc., all those sorts of things that go into a new set. I will be making separate videos for the chase cards that I have tabbed out for the upcoming set as well, so keep an eye out for those videos too. Now, in terms of new mechanics, we have quite a few of them. The first of the new mechanics is called Coven. Coven is going to be kind of like an evergreen, however, it's just more of an ability that some cards will have. And so Coven is going to be active as long as you control 2 or more creatures that have different powers. So if you have a card with Coven on the battlefield, it will gain the extra effects that Coven provides if you have 2 creatures with different powers. Now, that's not base powers, that's just different powers that are on the battlefield. So let's say that you have a 4-power creature on the battlefield and a 5-power creature on the battlefield, along with a card that has Coven, then you will get the Coven effect from that card. The next of our new mechanics is going to be day and night. And so with that comes the whole day-bound, night-bound, along with day shift. So I'm actually going to put all of these sort of together into one little lump sum. Now, for day and night, if you are unfamiliar with paper Magic and how this was implemented there are going to be new double-sided cards that are introduced to the game with Innistrad Midnight Hunt. Now, in paper, they would shift based on it being day or night. And so there was a day or night token, and that would cause all of your cards that had day or night to transform either to the day side if it was day outside or the night side if it was night outside. So in Puzzle Quest, we're going to have a permanent support that enters the battlefield when we cast a card that has the day or night mechanic, or one that has the day shift mechanic. Another way that you can get that support on the battlefield is also going to be to activate one of the new Planeswalker abilities that is going to enable you to put the day or night on the battlefield, right? So you get the support by simply playing a card or activating a loyalty ability. Now, once that support is down on the battlefield, it's going to be a 2-sided support that's going to transform itself. And the way that it transforms, if you take a look at the day-bound, night-bound at the bottom, is going to be based on what you and your opponent are playing from your hands. So at the end of each player's turn, if a player casts no spells during their turn, if it is day, it becomes night next turn. Then for the Nightbound, it's going to have at the end of each player's turn, if a player casts at least 2 cards during their own turn, it becomes day next turn. So this means that you might be playing a deck that's using the new day-night mechanic. However, both you and your opponent are able to make it so that that day and night is going to shift based on whether or not you try and make it so that you play 0 cards on any given turn to make it so that it swaps over to night, or if it's night and you want it to become day again, that you try and hold on to 2 cards or more and play them on your turn, at which point it will then go back to day. Now, I don't anticipate that Greg is going to actively hold on to cards to try and make Nightbound happen. Nightbound turn into Daybound. But with that said, Greg gets some pretty crazy cascades sometimes, so it's still something that's going to happen. Now, as for Day Shift is going to be only slightly different than Daybound and Nightbound. The whole day and night thing is representing a transformation process. It's a double-sided card, and it's how you're going to be able to use both sides of the cards that have the Daybound, Nightbound evergreen on them. Day Shift is going to be a mechanic that makes it so that when the card enters the battlefield, it's going to create, if it's day or night, it doesn't matter. It's actually going to make it day. If there isn't already the day-night token on the battlefield, then it's going to put it on the battlefield. And then when day becomes night or night becomes day, you're going to perform the following effects. So the cards will have an effect like, as an example, when it becomes day, then a creature you control gets double strike until end of turn, right? Or something like that. So it just further incentivizes the whole shifting the support between day and night. The next mechanic is going to be Imminent Death. Imminent Death is going to be in conjunction with Decayed, and it's there to represent what's happening with that whole Decayed zombie token thing that happened in Paper Magic, along with the whole just general Decayed mechanic, right? So Imminent Death is going to be a new icon evergreen that's introduced with Innistrad Midnight Hunt, and it's going to read, this creature loses a reinforcement at the end of the turn. If it can't, destroy it. So basically, every turn, a creature with Imminent Death will lose a reinforcement until it can no longer lose a reinforcement, at which point the creature will be destroyed. Now, this is primarily intended to be a spin-off of the Decayed mechanic, which I mentioned. So Decayed is something that happens in Puzzle Quest with zombie tokens. And so the whole Imminent Death idea on zombie tokens really doesn't seem all that nerve-wracking to me, just because if the tokens have Imminent Death, tokens tend to stack up pretty quickly, and losing one single stack of a token every single turn is probably not going to be too big of a deal. So the way that Decayed is going to work is actually quite interesting. So a creature with Decayed will have this creature can't attack. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may have this creature lose can't attack. If you do, it gains Imminent Death. So basically, the creature has can't attack, and it will not gain the Imminent Death until you actually attack with the card. And you actually get to choose when the card is going to attack, which is very different from how cards have worked previously in Puzzle Quest, because normally your creatures just automatically attack, or if they have Defender, automatically block, or if they have Vigilance, they block based on if they are going to survive or not. So having the whole Imminent Death and Decayed work as they do, I think is actually pretty cool. The next of our new mechanics is called Disturb. So Disturb is going to be another one of the transform mechanics that we're going to have introduced with Innistrad Midnight Hunt. And so if a card has Disturb, then cards with Disturb that are in your graveyard will gain mana when players match that card's color gems. And then when the cost is met to play the card, then that card will be cast from the graveyard, and it will be cast in its transformed state. So the actual tooltip for Disturbed is going to read, if this is the first card with Disturb color in your graveyard, it gains 3 mana whenever you make a color match. Remember, color is going to be the color identity of that card. So let's pretend that it's a blue card. Then it will say, if this is the first card with Disturb blue in your graveyard, it gains 3 mana whenever you make a blue match. Then when this card is cast from your graveyard, transform it. So if you have cards with different colors, right? So let's say you have a blue card with Disturb and a white card with Disturb, and you match blue and white gems in a single match, then both of them are going to start getting mana toward the Disturb cost. Think of it kind of as like a buried effect. However, instead of casting the primary version of the card, it's going to be cast for its transformed flip side. So it's just another way of implementing that whole transform mechanic. Our next new mechanic is going to be Bloodletting. So Bloodletting is going to be kind of like Coven in that it's not a traditional evergreen. It's more just going to be an effect that we're going to have on some of our cards. The Bloodletting hint is going to read this ability as active as long as your opponent has lost life this turn. So there are a lot of vampires in the upcoming set that have Bloodletting. There are some other cards that are going to have Bloodletting. So basically, if you use a Planeswalker ability to ping your opponent, or you cast a spell, or something happens that pings your opponent, then the Bloodletting will be active. I'm seeing a card like, as an example, Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle, as being a phenomenal card to run in a deck that uses Bloodletting, just because Valakut, upon gem conversion, is going to ping your opponent, so it's just going to immediately activate Bloodletting for you, which is pretty cool, especially since Bloodletting seems to be on a lot of red cards. Now, we're also getting another new keyword, and that keyword is called Casting a Spell. It is very originally named, if I might add myself. So casting a spell, surprise, surprise, is going to read, perform the following effects whenever you cast a spell card. Wow. But no, really wow, because that's absolutely a phenomenal ability. It is so strong on some of the cards that have it. So with us having a card like Wizard class in Standard that's staying with the Standard shift, the whole casting a spell is going to be pretty easy to activate. So between all of those are going to represent all of our new mechanics and abilities and tooltips and all of that kind of stuff. So pretty sweet. There are a lot of them though. I know, a lot. Now, just like in our last set, right, we're going to have passive abilities on some of our Planeswalkers, but not all of them. So we're only getting 3 new Planeswalkers in this set. We're getting a mono-green Wrenn, we're getting a red-green Arlen, and we are getting a white-blue Teferi. Wrenn and Arlen are both going to have new passive abilities, and these passive abilities are going to be named Harmony. You will notice that on the Planeswalker portrait that it will have this little symbol right over here, and that little symbol just means that it has the passive Harmony ability. Now, Wrenn's passive ability is going to be very strong, and the idea behind that is that Wrenn is a monocolored Planeswalker, whereas the passive ability for Arlen is more going to enable the idea of day and night with the werewolves. So Wrenn and Sevens, so that's going to be the new mono-green Wrenn. Wrenn and Sevens passive is going to read, when you convert gems for the first time during your turn, convert 2 gems to green. This basically means if you're running a green gem conversion card in your deck, which you should be, then the first time that you convert those gems to green, you're going to convert an additional 2 gems to green. So if you're running like Nissa's Pilgrimage or really any of the other support converters, you're just going to be converting on steroids with Wrenn, which means you're going to be getting more mana and you're going to be getting more loyalty. This ability as a passive is absolutely phenomenal. I figured that maybe it was possible that they would eventually add a green thing that converted 1 gem to green, but 2 gems to green on such an easy activation is an incredibly powerful ability. Now, Arlen's Harmony ability is going to make it so that she transforms whenever the period of day shifts. So Arlen's going to be another double-sided Planeswalker, and so Arlen is going to shift between the 2 sides based on it being day or night. Now, the first Planeswalker spoiled is going to be Wrenn and 7. At level 60, Wrenn and 7 as a mono-green Planeswalker is going to have 101 health. It has 3 abilities, which are going to be called One with Nature, Hosting Gems, and Overflowing. Wrenn's mana bonuses are going to be very similar to Nissa Worldwakers, with the +4, 3, 2, 1, and then a -1. It's just that Wrenn's bonuses are going to be mixed around a little bit. The only one that's going to stay the same is that they both have +4 to green. Now, Wrenn's first ability, One with Nature, is going to cost 9 loyalty. Then you pick up to 4 of the first 4 cards in your library. Yes, you heard that right. Pick up to 4 of the first 4, fetch those cards. Yep, you could draw 4 cards for 9 loyalty with this ability. Then, that's not all, destroy the top 4 cards of your library. Then, That's not all. Land cards in your hand gain half their mana. So there's so much to unpack with this ability. So first up, you can choose to draw 4 and then destroy 4 cards from your library, then give all the lands in your hand half mana. Or alternatively, since you get to pick 4 of the first 4 cards of your library, then destroy cards from the top of your library, you might choose that there are cards on top of your library that you actually want to go to the graveyard, and you want them to be the first cards to enter your graveyard for the purposes of reanimation things. And so with that, you might choose to actually only pick 2 of the first 4, and then have the other 2 be the cards that get dumped into the graveyard with the second part of the ability. There is a tremendous amount of flexibility with this One with Nature, and it is insane. It is absolutely an S tier ability. It might actually be the best first ability on any Planeswalker in the game. It's crazy good looking. The second ability, Hosting Gems, is going to cost 15 loyalty. Target creature you control gets a permanent +X buff, where X is equal to the amount of green gems on the board, up to 10. Then convert 2 gems to green. So I think the idea behind this ability was to make it so that it would work in conjunction with Ren's Harmony ability. So converting 2 gems to green, if you haven't already converted gems to green, is actually going to convert 4 gems to green. And then along with the gem conversion, you're going to be permanently buffing a creature. But honestly, for 15 loyalty, I don't see why there is a cap at 10 as the buff, because 15 loyalty to give a creature a permanent +10/+10 buff and convert 2 gems to green is an incredibly weak ability. I honestly don't see why I would ever use that ability. Now, even if it didn't have the limiter of 10, I still wouldn't use the ability very much at 15 loyalty. It just doesn't have as much power as either the first or the third ability for Ren and 7. So it just seems sort of like a little loss in terms of Ren's second ability. At least this is just my first take. It may be that I play Ren and I'm like, oh, this is phenomenal as a kill card or a kill ability, but for 10 power, I just don't see it. The third ability, Overflowing, is going to cost 21 loyalty. You're going to create an Overflow token. Now, I'm actually going to get into that token in just a minute because it's actually the part after this that's the good part of the ability. So you create the token, then you pick up to 2 of the first 4 non-land cards in your graveyard, fetch those cards gain full mana. Now, the first ability I mentioned, you can choose what are going to be the first cards that go into your graveyard, and then the third ability with Overflowing is then going to be able to bring those cards back from the graveyard to your hand with full mana. Now, one of the really special things about this third ability is that most of the Reanimator effects that we get in Puzzle Quest are going to make it so the card just enters the battlefield. They don't come to our hand with mana. So since these cards are coming to our hand with full mana, then cards that have, when you cast this card, abilities are going to then get the benefits of those abilities. Think of cards like Tiamat or the Tarask as examples, right? So Tiamat is going to fetch the next 2 dragons from your library that are not named Tiamat with different names. If Tiamat is cast, it's not an enter the battlefield. So that definitely gives you quite a lot to work with that third ability. However, on top of that, you're also going to create that Overflowing token. And that Overflowing token is going to be an emblem with 3 shields. It has Mana Field, draw a card. So if you make a gem match on the gem with the support or any of the adjacent gems, you're going to draw a card. And then it has, when you draw a card, if you have 6 cards in your hand, convert 2 gems to green. This effect can trigger up to 3 times per turn. This seems like a sort of dumbed down wizard class, but just for green ability. However, you only get to have 1 of these down on the battlefield instead of many of them down on the battlefield. The Overflowing token on its own seems somewhat underwhelming, but that's really not a big deal because the other ability from Overflowing is just such a phenomenal ability. Honestly, between One with Nature and Overflowing, I can easily see Ren and 7 becoming an S-tier Planeswalker. However, it's one of those things where we're going to have to test it out, and then once it's tested out, we'll know for sure if it is indeed an S-tier Planeswalker, or maybe just one that's a tier down, maybe an A-tier Planeswalker. Green tends to struggle with card advantage, and so having that first ability draw you 4 cards is absolutely ridiculous. Furthermore, green is going to be getting access to a bunch of Reanimator stuff, graveyard stuff with this set. So having the ability also dumping cards into your graveyard is going to further enable a bunch of the cards in the set in green. My only complaints about the Walker at first glance are the second ability, which is too much loyalty and has a cap that's entirely unnecessary in terms of the power, and then the loyalty cost for overflowing. I think that 21 is going to be very significant. However, I could be wrong because the Harmony passive from Wrenn and 7 might just completely negate that because you're converting extra gems to green. So Wrenn and 7 looks very powerful. I'm very excited to try that one out. Our next Planeswalker is going to be Teferi, who slows the sunset. Teferi, who slows the sunset, is going to be a brand new white-blue Planeswalker. Teferi is going to have the minimal health of 92 as his maximum health value. His mana bonuses are going to be +3 to white and blue, +1 to green and black, and neutral to red. So while it's cool that this dual color Planeswalker will not have any negative mana gains, it's kind of a bummer that he's only got +3 to his primary colors. It's going to make it so that if you're trying to play a deck with a higher mana curve, which a lot of decks tend to be in Puzzle Quest, you're going to have a harder time doing that because you're only going to be getting 6 mana from 3 matches of your primary colors, white or blue. Whereas if you're running a Planeswalker like Nico or Dungeon Master who have +5, you're going to be getting +8 for those same matches. Furthermore, that 92 health on Teferi, who slows the sunset, seems a bit prohibitive to me. That's a very, very low health total, so his abilities are definitely going to have to make up for that. The 3 abilities on Teferi, who slows the sunset, are Time-Lapse Resistance, Extended Daytime, and Borrowing Time. The first ability, Time-Lapse Resistance, is going to pick one of the first 4 cards from your library. You're going to fetch that card. Each card in your hand gains X mana, where X is the number of blue cards in your hand, and then you gain life equal to the number of white cards in your hand. If, the Lord was smiling on you and all cards in your hand were both blue and white, then you would pick one of the first 4 cards from your library, fetch that card, give each card in your hand 6 mana, and then gain 6 life. More realistically, because of things like wanting to run gem conversion, which tends to be colorless, and then using some monocolored cards. More realistically speaking, you're going to be getting 2 to 3 mana for every card in your hand, and you're going to be gaining between 2 and 3 life for using that first ability. Nonetheless, the idea of the first ability serving as fetch and life gain and mana to all cards in your hand is a pretty cool ability. I'm very excited to try that first ability out. The second ability, Extended Daytime, is going to disable target creature until the beginning of your next turn. Your creatures gain Vigilance until the beginning of your next turn. If it's not day, it becomes day. So this ability is a little bit confusing to me. At first I wondered if maybe this was just the rank 1 part of this ability because it just doesn't really do anything that makes you want to use the ability. You disable a creature until the beginning of your next turn, but then your creatures gain Vigilance. So by disabling a creature, it's not going to be able to attack. So then your creatures gaining Vigilance is probably not going to matter, especially if you're playing white-blue, which is going to be pretty heavy in control. There's just nothing that you're going to get from that. And then finally, it has that whole if it's not day, it becomes day. But Teferi is going to have another ability, as we're going to see in just a moment, that is able to make it become day and actually has an incredibly powerful component to it. So similarly to Wrenn and 7, I don't quite understand the existence of Teferi's second ability. I don't see why you would pretty much ever want to use it outside of a few niche moments of you just need to save your life because something's going to attack you, and so you disable it down to give yourself 1 extra turn of life. But that's really the only reason I can think of that you would want to use that Extended Daytime ability. Now the third ability, Borrowing Time, is actually a very cool ability. It costs 19 loyalty, and you're going to create a Borrowed Time token. That Borrowed Time token is going to be a white-blue support with Day Shift. Remember, Day Shift means that when it becomes day, 1 effect will happen, and when it becomes night, another effect will happen. Day Shift is going to read, if it's day, your white creatures get +1/+0 and gain lifelink, and your blue creatures get +0/+1 and gain hexproof. If it's night, disable all opposing creature and support cards until the beginning of your next turn. So if you are able to fairly quickly toggle between day and night, then you're going to be able to make it so that your creatures are going to have lifelink, your creatures are going to have hexproof, and you're going to be able to disable all of your opponent's creatures and supports pretty frequently, which is pretty cool. So the Borrowed Time token is definitely a very cool token. But there's also more to the ability, which makes it even better. If you control more than 2 creatures, it becomes day. Otherwise, it becomes night. So right there, we have a way of making it day or night, Kid Cudi style. And so extended daytime just has even less of a reason to exist. But that's not all. Now, each card in our hand is also going to gain 6 mana. So the whole Borrowing Time ability is an absolutely phenomenal ability. I could honestly see you just saving up to use a third ability, and then use a bunch of gem conversion and just skip the other 2 abilities and use the third ability over and over again. The first ability is definitely a really cool ability, but the third ability guaranteeing that each card in your hand gains 6 mana when you use it makes it so that unless you're playing a deck full of multicolored cards, you're probably just going to want to try and spam that third ability, which isn't a problem because that's also going to make it shift between day and night, which is going to be a big advantage for Teferi because of the way that his Borrowed Time token is going to work. So Teferi happens to have a lot of things going against him. However, he does have enough things going for him that he could actually wind up surprising me and become a fairly powerful planeswalker. So he's one that I'll definitely need to try, but at least first glance doesn't particularly stand out to me. The last of the 3 new planeswalkers is going to be our new Arlen. So this is going to be Arlen the Pack's Hope and Arlen the Moon's Fury. Remember, Arlen has the new Harmony ability that's going to cause her to shift based on if it's day or night. So Arlen is going to have, on both sides, +5 to both green and red, her primary colors, +2 to blue, and -2 to both white and black. Her mana gains are absolutely phenomenal. That +5/+5 on dual-colored walkers happens to be what I think is probably the best mana split that you can have. Furthermore, Arlen has 123 maximum health, which is definitely significant. So that is a solid health total. Her 3 abilities on the day side are going to be To Me, my wolf pack, Howl of Command, and Balance Seeker. To Me, my wolf pack is going to create 4 wolf tokens. Wolf tokens in Puzzle Quest are 2/2 tokens, so this is going to be a 7 loyalty ability that puts an 8/8 token down on the battlefield. Your wolf and werewolf creatures then also gain haste until end of turn. So I really like this ability. I really like 7 loyalty creating an 8/8 token. That's definitely going to represent quite a bit of power. And then there's a number of other cards in the set that are going to make wolf tokens. We've even gotten a few cards in the previous set that are going to make wolf tokens. So this is definitely going to go well with the whole idea of creating a wolf pack, which is what the ability is named after, which is cool. The second ability, Howl of Command, is a very unique ability. You gain X loyalty, where X is the number of wolf and werewolf creatures you control, including their reinforcements. So the sole purpose of that second ability is just to gain loyalty. So you're spending loyalty to ideally gain loyalty, or potentially just for an objective where you need to activate a loyalty ability X number of times. That could make it really, really easy. Now, this does cost 12 loyalty, so you're going to need to have at least 12 wolf or werewolf creatures and reinforcements on the battlefield in order for this to really be good. However, if you have that, at 12 wolf creatures, right, if we base it off the wolf tokens, is going to be 24 power. And so if you've got 24 power in creatures on the battlefield, I'm not sure that you're going to want to be using Howl of Command to get 12 loyalty back. You'd really need to have many more than that on the battlefield, at which point you're probably in a position where you are going to be able to kill your opponent. Now, I definitely am going to need to try it out. Against some PvE opponents with higher health totals, I can definitely see a reason to use this. Or if you actively want to save up your loyalty so you can use up Arlen's Knight abilities, which definitely also makes sense. Now then we got Balance Seeker. Balance Seeker is going to create a copy of the Celestis on the board. The Celestis is a new rare support that is going to have special effects for shifting between day and night. You're then going to convert 6 gems to your Planeswalker's colors, and you're going to gain 8 loyalty. So once again, this seems pretty cool in that we've got two abilities that are going to refund loyalty. It makes it so that Arlen is probably going to wind up being a very spammy planeswalker in terms of the use of her planeswalker abilities. So that third ability is also going to convert gems to your planeswalker colors, which could give you matches, which could give you mana, and which could give you more loyalty. So definitely really cool. The Arlen, the Moon's Fury, so the night version, is going to have Ready, Pack Attack, and Moon's Fury. Ready is going to make it so that each wolf and werewolf in your hand that can gain mana gains 3 mana. Then you convert 3 gems to your planeswalker's colors. So the gem conversion is going to convert to some split of red and green. It will be random. However, you will be giving all of the wolf and werewolf token or cards in your hand mana for activating Ready. The second ability, Pack Attack, is going to make it so that your creatures get +2/+2 and gain first strike until end of turn. Then you're going to deal X damage to your opponent's planeswalker, where X is the amount of loyalty you have. I would imagine that that damage to your opponent's planeswalker is going to take place after you have already used up the 12 loyalty for Pack Attack. So if you want to actually have it deal extra damage, you're going to need to have extra loyalty, which is probably part of why the day side has that whole thing where it's gaining loyalty from 2 of its abilities. Finally, the third ability, Moon's Fury, is going to create a Moon's Fury token. It gains Berserker, Trample, and Double Strike until end of turn. We should see what that Moon's Fury token is, because it's pretty awesome, actually. So you're going to create a Moon's Fury token. It's going to be a red-green creature werewolf with Imminent Death and Haste. Remember, Imminent Death means that it will have it loses a reinforcement every turn, and if it can't lose a reinforcement, then it just dies, right? So when this creature enters the battlefield, it gets +X/+X until end of turn. X is the sum of all of your other creature's power. So then it also has, when this creature dies, if it's night, it becomes day. So this creature is really designed to be able to enter the battlefield, and then it's going to be on the battlefield for 1 turn, and then it's going to die, and then it's going to transform Arlen. That said, if you get this third ability token down, you're probably going to kill your opponent by using it, because if you're using the ability, you've probably got some wolves on the battlefield, and so you use the ability, or you don't even need wolves, honestly, it could just be any creature, right? And then it's going to inherit all of their power, but it's also going to get Berserker, Trample, and Double Strike. So it's going to be hitting for double the power of whatever it is you have on the battlefield when you play the token. So really, really strong ability there, and some really cool abilities all around from Arlen the Pack's Hope. I'm actually very excited to play with this new Planeswalker. I love her design. Now, the next thing is going to be a new event. We are getting a new PvP Coalition event. It's called the Harvest Tide. So it's going to be a standard event. It's going to be a progression event with ranks. So basically you get rewards from progression, and you also get rewards for your rank, both personal, individual, and coalition. There are going to be 2 nodes. Those nodes are going to enable you to play with any Planeswalker colors. It's going to start with 1 initial charge. There are going to be 4 max charges. There's a recharge timer of 8 hours, and the event duration is 46 hours. I like the initial charge of 1 because that just makes it so that starting it up and then just playing through the event over the weekend is definitely going to be a lot more doable for more players, which is always a big win. As to what the event will have in terms of rewards, all of that, we'll take a look at that when that gets posted. Now, on to new features. This is actually a pretty great new feature. So opponent's Exile and Graveyard are now viewable. So you can now see what your opponent has in Exile and in their Graveyard. You can already do that for yourself. This is just a quality of life feature. I mean, I guess it's not quality of life, because if you're playing a deck that's going to be taking things from your opponent's Exile or Graveyard, you're going to want to know what you're able to take. So being able to do this is phenomenal. I'm really glad that this got added to the game. It's something that you can do in Paper Magic, and so it's something that definitely should be able to be done in Puzzle Quest. We've got some changes to mechanic icons. So the original Innistrad set had front and back cards with a sun and moon icon. And so what Octagon is doing is they've created a new icon for transform, right? So you've got front side, back side, yeah? And so it's going to take all of the old icons and it's going to change them to the new icons. And then all of our new cards that have day and night that are going to transform are also going to have this new icon on them. And it will help you see whether or not it's the front or the back side of a card. And it will also show you that the card has transformed. We're having a standard shift with this set. So this is a big deal. This is a massive deal. So the standard format is shifting. Throne of Eldraine, Theros Beyond Death, Ikoria, M21, and the small subset Daxos versus Kalemni are all going to enter Legacy. I'm very hopeful that this also means that we're going to get another Dual Decks event. I really like the Dual Decks events. They're probably my favorite of the events, so I'd be really excited to see another new one of those. So our new standard format is going to change, obviously, with those 4 sets rotating out. So the new standard is going to have Origins and Puzzle Masters, which are the 2 Eternal sets. And then we're going to have Zendikar, Kaldheim, Strixhaven, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, and now the new Innistrad Midnight Hunt set. So we're going to have 5 standard sets plus the 2 Eternal for a total of 7 sets in standard. So losing the 4 sets is definitely a big deal along with the subset. A lot of our staples were in those sets. That's going to be another video that I'm going to make ideally at some point, which is going to be which are the cards that I'm going to miss the most, which are the most powerful cards that are rotating out. I'm looking at you, Ruinous Ultimatum, and Urza. But there's still going to represent an absolutely massive shift in how we're going to make decks for our events. There are going to be some changes to events. The Terror in the Shadows event has had its rewards reworked. And then we're going to have new rewards, update rewards on Colors of Magic as well. So the rewards from the booster packs in Colors of Magic is going to go from Kaldheim to Strixhaven and from Strixhaven to Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. So the idea behind this is just to freshen it up and give us some of the newer packs. A Timeless Voyage is going to have an event change. They are getting rid of the double swap on the... I'm kidding. No, they aren't. They've changed the reward booster packs from all tiers, from M21 to Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. This is just so that A Timeless Voyage event, which is going to be kept as a standard event, will be giving us standard booster packs. So just a way to continue to get new cards in the current standard instead of getting legacy cards. So any event that is a standard event, I think should give standard packs, which is nice. They've also changed booster pack prices, which is a little bit out of left field, but is a very welcome change. Legacy packs are going to become cheaper, so that's huge and definitely should be the case. So premium packs are going from 300 crystals to 280 crystals, super packs are going from 180 to 170, and the regular pack is going to be 60 mana crystals. So this just makes picking up legacy cards a little bit more affordable. Not a lot more, but a little bit more. We'll take it. Origins, standard packs, and legacy packs are also all going to have an even more significant price drop for being VIP. So VIP is about to get even more rewarding than it already is. So Origins packs, if you're VIP, are 300. That's going to go down to 280. Super packs are going to go from 160 to 140, and regular packs are going to go to 50. Standard packs for VIP, this does not mean that you're going to magically be able to buy standard boosters. No, this means packs that are from the current standard are going to go from premium packs from 290 crystals to 250 crystals. This is actually especially significant. A difference of 40 crystals for standard packs is huge. So that's going to make it much more affordable for you to be able to buff up your standard collection. And with a standard rotation happening, that's very important. The super packs are going to go from 170 to 150, and regular packs are going to cost 50. Legacy packs are going to go from 290 to 230 for premium packs, from 170 to 140 for the super packs, and to 50 with the regular packs. So all in all, it's just they're slashing the cost of packs It's going to be slashed even more so for people who are picking up VIP. It's not enough so that if you're a free-to-play player, it's going to be like, oh god, there's VIP peoples. But it's still a very significant amount, so I actually quite like that change myself. There are also going to be some fixes. You will see that there are quite a lot of fixes. So there tend to be, whenever we get a new set or a new patch, there tend to be a bunch of things that are a little bit cattywampus in the game. So seeing all the fixes is definitely going to be nice. They will have fixed the issue where the rare creature card Sigrid God Favored didn't lose the protections when the god left the enemy's field. Just maintain the protections, which, was not helpful sometimes. Fixed an issue with the common creature card Lamphead of Death's Vigil from Theros Beyond Death, which was not being triggered when it died. Fixed an issue with deck build closing at the start of the hour. Oh, thank goodness. All right, I don't know how many of you have been building a deck, and then in the middle of building a deck, it just takes you right out of deck building and back to the home screen. And you might have just been sitting there for the last 10, 15 minutes going through your cards and figuring out how you wanted to build your deck when all of a sudden, kablam, it's gone, and it's gone. So that is honestly for me a massive change, because fix, I should say, because that was an absolute pain in the butt. They fixed an issue with the rare creature card Old Growth Troll from Kaldheim that was giving mana to the wrong player when it caused a match on its own death trigger. Yeah, that was just untenable. Fixed issues where rare spell card Alter Reality was not triggering any effect. That's a pretty big bummer right there. Fixed the issue with the support card Omens of the End giving full mana only with legendary creatures. Fixed the issue where the Masterpiece creature card Voidmaw did not trigger for Nightmare Harvest ability of Ashiok Nightmare Muse Planeswalker. Fixed an issue with the uncommon creature card Shisera Death's Whisper from Adventures in the Forgotten Realm, triggering life loss without drawing cards. Fixed the issue where the uncommon creature card Chaos Channeler was rolling d20s without drawing cards. Fixed an issue with the uncommon spell card You Meet in a Tavern, where the opponent was fetching only one card instead of two. Fixed an issue where spells disabled by the mythic creature Xanathar, Guild Kingpin, was appearing as enabled in the opponent's hand. Fixed another issue with Xanathar that did not affect adventure spells. Fixed the issue where the battle log did not deal damage from lost life, and fixed the issue where rare creature card Werewolf Pack Leader was converting gems without the draw. So a lot of really good changes here. My own personal favorite is fixing the deck issue with it being lost at the start of the hour. That one was a massive pain in the butt for me. So nonetheless, it's always good to get fixes in the game. You want all the cards to be working exactly as they read so that when you build off of them, they're working as you think they are supposed to work. Now with that does do it for all of our fixes, events, changes to the format, planeswalkers, and mechanics. And that means that is it for this video. I know it's a bit of a longer one, so if you made it to the end, congratulations. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.